presents the symbols of the religion.
Exactly, and that's why this is so interesting. Marcel Griol, he, as far as I understand it, then he didn't have an understanding of the religion per se. He just he went to the extent of just detailing it, right, and didn't do that much interpretation of it. Correct?
Yes, that's right. And part of the reason he didn't understand, and it's probably a blessing for us that he didn't, because he wasn't able to, as I mentioned earlier, he identified these figures as being male. And if he had understood the symbolism, he might have changed the symbolism as well. But we have the symbols to reinforce the fact that these are female beings, because they were associated with the sun, which was the female symbol. So...
Absolutely. Well, why don't we then, Shannon, kind of go into some of the basics of the Dogon religion? Maybe you can deconstruct it for people who never have heard about this before, and then as next step, I guess we could tie in the pneumo and everything else here. But run through some of the basics for us first, Shannon.
Well, according to the Dogon, the pneumo first came to Earth because their own world was dying. And they were initially associated with the Sirius star system. And they believed that when they came here, that there wasn't any intelligent life on the planet. And they, as I mentioned, they were immortal beings. And they did have the ability to create life. They were familiar with biological engineering. So they believed that they could create a new life on the Earth, that they could move their souls into and live on the Earth. And as I mentioned, they were amphibious beings. And in my first book, The Master's Speech, I associate them with the killifish, which is a fish found in Florida on Earth. And these fish are also self-fertilizing amphibians like the pneumo were. And in 85% of the time, they're self-fertilizing beings, but and they're born as females first of all, and then they develop testes later in life, and not to several years or something like that. And 15% of the time, single-sex males are born, and these males the researchers believe, were to provide genetic diversity to the species. And I believe the pneumo procreated much like this, because they talk about the experiment, and the first beings are born self-fertilizing and immortal like the pneumo. But when one of these single-sex males is born, who, if we compare it to the killifish, are born periodically to provide this genetic diversity in the species, they realized that the experiment had failed because this male was totally severed from the pneumo's spiritual essence. He was a mortal being, and he has no memory of having lived before. Essentially, he signifies humans, even though in the religion he is identified as a male, because the pneumo were identified as being female beings. So he is identified as the jackal in the Dogon religion.
Yeah.
And we see this in old Europe too, where the dog is a symbol of harbinger of death, and this is what the jackal represents in the Dogon religion. Now, according to the mythology, it's not specific whether it's just him or other males like him. In some passages, it suggests that it could have been a group of them who were born this way, who couldn't connect with the pneumo. And Obatmeli describes it as that the jackal